5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? This is Joe 14, and I'm here with
Mesonak from the CTV podcast.
And LJ and Jo should be joining us in a while.
LJ will not be joining today.
LJ won't be?
Busy. He's already told me.
Alright then, so I guess Jo will be joining us in a little while.
Yep.
So how's life and such?
Well, it's pretty good. We didn't do a Facecast last week, obviously enough, so this is first time in a while.
Yeah.
But personally, things are going okay. I recently got a game by the name of Borderlands 2, and I've been playing that somewhat. It is insanely fun.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
From the sounds of things, you have a lot of games, too, that you've gotten.
Yeah, I had a stack of like 10 DS games, and it hasn't grown like much, and then just this week it like doubled.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe not this week, but over the past couple of weeks I've gotten a lot of games, mostly from the Professor Layton and Ace Attorney series, which makes up most of it now.
Yeah. Now you need to learn Japanese and get Phoenix Wright versus Ace Attorney. Yeah, not Phoenix Wright versus Ace Attorney. Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton.
And Miles Edgeworth too.
Wow. Yeah, that too.
Yeah. I have heard though that the Miles Edgeworth 2 game will probably be coming to the US. The Ace Attorney versus Professor Layton probably won't be, unfortunately, because of
probably not
copyright issues.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was really excited about that game. I watched a review online about it, and someone was translating, though they weren't doing the greatest job, and it's more of they're just like speaking aloud and translating whatever they feel is important, so they're not actually translating the whole thing. And in the process of translating, sometimes they interrupt the Japanese, so it gets a bit garbled and hard to follow. But from what I saw, it actually looks quite interesting. The blend between the puzzles of Professor Layton and the intense storyline of Phoenix Wright or Ace Attorney is pretty exciting.
I don't know. I would say that at this point, the odds may be higher for that game getting localized rather than Investigations 2, just because it's been years since that one came out, and they passed up on it because they didn't think it would sell as well. The only chance is that they do a digital release only, which, yeah, I guess that's plausible.
I'm actually quite surprised. Ace Attorney is quite a popular game, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely more popular than the Professor Layton games, although they are...
They're pretty popular.
What?
They're pretty popular.
Uh-huh. It's funny. Apparently my youngest brother, who has kind of an obsession with gaming and stuff, he actually told me about both games, Ace Attorney and Professor Layton, and he always tells me about like tons of different games, so I kind of just went past me. I wasn't really even paying attention. And then like a couple years later, I found out about both of them and find out that he actually had a good point, saying they're pretty good games. But then again, he says that about everything, so...
Well, you know, sometimes...
If I bought every game he told me was amazing, I'd probably be pretty penniless and not...
Buy every game, every single game that's good. You gotta get it. Go on a quest.
The problem is, not every game that's good is actually good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough cash to do that.
You got all the cash in the world. Just look at all your Lego sets. Trade some Lego for some games.
Really? Seriously?
Yes.
Like, Legos are timeless. Video games, they go down in value. But Legos, once you get rid of them, there's no guarantee you can ever get them back.
That is true.
I haven't bought a whole lot of new Lego sets, but I hang on to them because they're just such a good reminder of my childhood. I can't bring myself to get rid of them.
Yeah. Lego is pretty fantastic. Were you a fan of Ninjago at all?
I watched the TV series and the sets impressed me, although there's just something about it that I found slightly on the cheesy side, and there were so many sets. If I got into it, I would have wanted to buy every set, and I just couldn't just go buy every single set.
Yeah, I hear you.
And the fact that so many of the sets had repetitive designs, like had really good designs, but had the same kind of theme to all of them, so they were all really cool. But they had different techniques to the building style, but they all kind of looked similar. Like all those snake vehicles, they all kind of look the same,
Oh
just
yeah,
we differed. And I just I didn't want to get into it so much that I'd have to go spend like $100,
that makes sense because the
maybe
sets were
even
quite
more.
expensive, if I recall.
Hmm. Though it did remind me a lot of Exoforce in the building design, at least.
Yeah.
Of course, Greg wrote the storyline for it, so I suppose it is a lot like it.
Did Greg write Exoforce?
Hmm.
Wow.
He wrote he
Yeah.
wrote most of the good storyline based ones. He wrote Knight's Kingdom, Exoforce, Bionicle, obviously, and Ninjago.
I did not realize that.
Hmm.
Of course, I was never big into Exoforce anyway, so of course I wouldn't. Nothing against it. I just never paid attention, really. I bet if I looked at it now, I'd probably like
It's
it.
really a shame they ended it. It was a very good. It was almost Japanese in the way they did it. It's like there's actually Japanese written on a lot of the stickers and just the storyline around it, like the whole. Even though it's futuristic mechs and stuff, there's a lot based off ninja fighting because the main characters when they're outside their battle machines they use like swords and karate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway, Ace Attorney, what did you think aside from it's good? What did you think of the plot?
Well, I played through the entire game in 4 days.
Really?
Uh huh. I was that into it, and I know it probably would have taken if had actually like kind of staggered a little bit more and done less. I probably would have taken maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but it had me so sucked in, and I
Yeah.
imagine the second game won't be as long. Which I was supposed to get
It's
Justice for
longer.
All to I was supposed to get Justice for All today, but for some reason it's not here. I'm guessing it might come tomorrow.
I recall Justice for All being even longer.
Mhm. The Just the way they set it up was very nicely done. It felt like every time you went to the next trial, it felt more like it was introducing more stuff. Not like it feels like in a lot of games they throw a ton of information at you at the beginning, and then
Yes.
after that, the game just is kind of the same throughout the whole thing. So if you get used to one thing, it gets boring over time. Whereas with Ace Attorney, they like almost introduce a new thing every new trial, so it's not too much at the beginning, and it doesn't get boring halfway through.
You are very right. What was the new Professor Layton game you got? Or
I got
games?
Miracle Mask. However, I have not played it yet because I want to finish the last Spectre first, and I'm actually a little bit sad because I think I'm getting a little bit bored of the last Spectre. The first three games are actually no, the last three games are actually meant to be prequels to the first three,
Huh.
so it's not as technological technologically based. It's more. I think they tried to go for a more medieval effect, and it's actually I'm finding it a little bit more boring than the first three games,
That's
and
unfortunate.
it's a little bit disappointing. Um, I'm hoping that once I get onto Miracle Mask, it will get better.
Is that one still a prequel?
Yes, the
Wow.
fourth, fifth, and sixth games are prequels to the first three. It's kind of like Star Wars, how they did it. Um, However, Miracle Mask was my first 3DS game. I popped it in and just watched the first cutscene, and I'm very impressed by the 3D effects. They utilize it a lot, more than I expected. It feels like with a lot of the 3DS games, it's just two-dimensional games with a few things thrown in,
You are
uh,
right.
because game designers weren't super excited about utilizing 3D stuff. They just wanted to make a sequel to their game, and the 3D didn't really fit with that.
Yeah. The whole
But
3D gimmick didn't go over well with people at all to start with.
aside from Nintendo officially releasing their own games with 3D stuff, most of the other companies didn't really use it a whole bunch, but Miracle Mask has a bunch of it in it, and it's kind of cool.
That's good.
I managed to get it for $20, and it turned out I got it from GameStop, and when I opened it up, I found out it was brand new. Whoever resold it to GameStop never even touched it.
That's awesome.
So it's basically brand new, and brand new it's $40, and I got it for 20 instead.
That's fantastic. I need to get into the Professor Layton series. I've heard
they're quite impressive. However, I have found that the fourth game is slightly disappointing on the exciting effects. The Ace Attorney game, it always feels like you're on your toes, and the music with it, I'm finding one of my favorite parts of it is the music, and they time it so perfectly. Like when you're in a trial and something like exciting happens, they'll have the cornered or objective music. It's
the
perfect.
Music is one of the best things in that series, just because of the atmosphere it presents.
I found myself predicting a lot of the stuff, and it was a little bit, I don't know. It just felt good to predict stuff beforehand. Like
definitely.
I'm not sure. Okay, before I say anything, spoiler alert.
Yes.
I'll put an annotation in here so you can skip over it if you don't want to have it spoiled. Ace Attorney is a fantastic game, so if you haven't already played it, do not listen to this because it will totally ruin the game for you.
Ace Attorney is one of those games where the plot revelations matter. Like with some games, it's like, oh well, if you know the story or whatever, the gameplay's still fun, but not this one. So yeah, heed his words.
It has nothing. It has zero for replay value. The game will be destroyed if you already know everything. And I had to really fight the urge not to go look up YouTube video walkthroughs of Justice for All because I'm so excited to play it, but I have to resist it because I know it's gonna wreck it for me if I go and watch everything.
Yeah, you would be right.
So I totally predicted the whole thing with the final trial. As soon as the chief of police walked in, I was like, "There's just something about him."
Yeah.
And then, like, a few minutes afterwards, he started talking about stuff that had happened. I was like, I just knew it was him.
Yeah.
Did you predict anything like that?
Yeah, because here's the thing: when you predict the antagonists, predicting the plot is one thing, but when someone comes in, the game doesn't really... Like, obviously they have a lot of characters, and they try and throw you off by saying, oh, this person is a possible suspect and whatnot, but usually they make it pretty evident who the real culprit is, most of the time.
The one that actually stumped me, this is the only one. Obviously, the first two, you actually know who did it, because in the beginning cutscenes, they actually show it to you, and then after a while, the third, fourth, and fifth one, they don't actually show it to you. What happened was, at the beginning of the fifth one, I started... I watched the cutscene, and it had, like, the split thing where it had the two female characters throwing the knives, and I was, like, confused at first. And then as soon as it introduced the two characters, I was like, I bet they're actually guilty. And it was her and her sister. Why am I forgetting their name?
Lana and Emma.
Yeah. I actually, towards the beginning, I was like, I bet they did it together. And then after a while, I was like, no.
Yeah.
And also, I had a few questions about the fifth one that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think it's called Rise from the Ashes, right?
Yep.
What motivation would the chief of police have to kill Goodman, stabbing him on the knife?
Could have sworn they explained that pretty well, but it's been a long time since I played.
They explained why he would try to pin the blame on Emma, but they didn't really explain. I mean, having him killed wouldn't affect his position as chief of police. It's just another murder case. And Goodman, he didn't... wait, no, it wasn't Goodman. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Marshall.
Yes.
The younger one, the one that was a prosecutor, he had no reason to kill him because it wouldn't affect his position. It wouldn't get him promoted. And in my opinion, he would take the chance of getting found out.
Yeah.
I still don't fully understand why he killed him.
You should look it up and find out. I'm sure there's...
Just the thought of him, like, picking the guy up and impaling him on that just. I felt myself getting a little bit sick at the end when I kept hearing all this stuff about all the murders of these people. So many people died in the last one, or at least it felt like it. Only
Yeah.
2 died, right?
I believe so, yeah.
It felt like more though. I don't know. But yeah, the only one I didn't predict was the 4th one with the what's he called? Yogi? Is it Yogi or Yogi?
Yanni Yogi? It's Yogi.
Yeah. I didn't predict that because I don't
Yeah.
know. The game has a comedic effect, and when I
Yes.
first talked to him, I was like, "There's no way it could be him." And I don't know. There's no real way you could actually think it was him because
Yeah.
there's no real indication. He seemed to be insane,
Yeah.
and there's no way this guy did it, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense that he would do it.
Well, it was a facade.
Maybe, but I don't know why he kept it up the whole time.
Gotta cover his tracks.
What I also don't get is Edgeworth is supposed to be like a super observant guy, even if he didn't know that one guy that got killed, that the whole murder case started out with that they thought Edgeworth killed him. How did he not like notice any features, even in the dark? How he's supposed to be like super observant, like he's a prosecutor. He has to not notice any features and put it together with the old man.
Yeah. There were
I think that was a little bit on the far-fetched side. I would have thought he noticed.
At some points, the game throws logic to the wind in order to tell a good and riveting story. It's a sacrifice they sometimes make. Mainly in what game am I thinking of? The 3rd game. There's a lot of unbelievable scenarios. Like, they're explained and they make logical sense, but for them to happen, it's like, yeah.
It's possible, but it's incredibly unlikely.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
But is it more along the lines of how something happened, or the fact that someone missed something that's super incredibly obvious?
More like the first. So what you're talking about is more the
Because
last.
I actually like it better when it's like really unexpected ways of someone getting killed, but the fact that someone's unobservant when they're like a character that's supposed to be observant, like Edgeworth or something, that just kind of bugs me.
Yeah, I hear you.
But aside from that one part, I would say this is probably one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah.
It impressed me a ton.
Well, if you like the first one, you're gonna love the 2nd and 3rd, more so the 3rd than any of the others. Trials and Tribulations.
Is it really that good?
Yeah, it's the best one, quality-wise, in my opinion, of the
Do you
series.
think it's better than Apollo Justice?
Oh, hands down, hands down. Apollo Justice is the weakest entry.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. It has a very solid story, but they introduce a ton of new characters, and none of them are, in my opinion, as gripping as the original trilogy's characters. They all, I don't know, something about them just... There's some good stuff in there, and it's not a bad game by any means, but to compare them to the others, it's...
That's kind of the same effect I'm getting with Professor Layton. The first 3 games, it was just like every game there was a step up. The first game was, or actually I played the second one first, and I was super impressed by it. Then I played the first one, and I kind of felt at the same level, and then the third one just blew my mind away. It was incredible. The first 2 games had like 8 or 9 chapters, and then the third one had 13 chapters, and there were like 4 or 5 points where I thought, oh, this is the end of the game. I wish I had 4 already because I want to go on to the next one. And I was like, wait, it's not over yet.
Yeah,
and then again, and again, and again. And I was like, this game isn't going to ever end. And finally, it ended. And it was like incredibly long.
Yep.
And it impressed me a ton. Is it kind of the same with
Yes.
Ace Attorney? Okay.
Definitely.
And then the 4th one just kind of... It let me down a little bit. It wasn't as good and as gripping as the 3rd one, and it felt like, oh, it's at the same level as the first 2. But once you've taken a step up and seen all the cool stuff from the third one. It feels like it should get better, and it's kind of a little bit of a step down. Even though it's an incredible game, it just feels a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
So maybe I should play Apollo Justice before I play Trials and Tribulations. Otherwise, I might actually feel
No.
disappointed.
No.
Are the spoilers?
Yeah, there's a couple spoilers, but there's also just that feeling of playing it in chronological order. The stuff that happens in Apollo Justice has more impact if you know what happens in Trials and Tribulations. It's not a massive letdown. I don't want you to think that. It's just to compare Apollo Justice to the others, there's no contest. But it is by no means a bad game.
All right. Echo?
Is there?
Well, I hear myself. Do you hear me twice?
No.
Okay. I'm surprised Jo isn't here yet, but that's not too much of a problem. I still want to discuss a few more things. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I got a 3DS this past week. I actually got it on Monday, and I was considering doing Facecast just for the sake of that, but the problem being I didn't have any 3DS games, so it wouldn't really have as much impact as it's basically my DSi, except for it has a few things, and I guess I'll just go right into it and talk about it. First of all, I got it for $103, so I kind of lied last time I said I wouldn't go over 100. I went a little bit over it with the shipping. It was 103, and I got my DSi for 120, I think. However, I had a pro membership with GameStop at the time, so I got it for 100. But essentially, I paid more for my DSi than I did my 3DS, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And as soon as I opened it up, I could tell it was completely different than the DSi, just the way it was set up. It feels more like a handheld version of the Wii than the DS. It completely differs in that the way the pads are set up with the analog pad, it's a lot more like the Wii. The sound effects, whenever you like move the arrows, whenever you're doing anything outside the game, it sounds like the Wii. It has the Wii sound effects, and then when you power it down, it has the same screen. It's not just a matter of holding down the power button. It actually has, like, are you sure you want to power off? It has a home button now instead of just the start and select.
Yeah.
There are a few things that bugged me, though. The software is a huge step up, but the hardware is kind of a bit of a letdown. Aside from the analog pad, I would say everything else has been downgraded. The way they set up, they have a wireless button on the side, and it's driving me crazy because it's very easy to bump it and actually accidentally shut off your wireless, which is a pain because there was one point where I was playing with my brother on Mario Kart, and I actually bumped it and it shut it off, and we disconnected, and that kind of bugged me because I don't really see the point in having a wireless thing on the side. There's no real reason to need to shut it off.
Yeah, that makes
It's like the button on my keyboard that I have for my computer, although it's not as easy to bump. I've bumped it before, and it drives me crazy because I always forget about it, and then I spend like 20 minutes trying to figure out what the problem is, and then it's like, oh, I bumped it.
Huh.
And it's kind of the same thing with this. Another thing that bugs me is it has the volume and the 3D effect thing are on a slider rather than buttons. And this bugged me because on the DSi, you could actually hold down the select button and then move the arrow keys for the volume and turn up and down the screen brightness, which was helpful when my battery was dying. I'd turn it down. It would save time, so I wouldn't have to charge it if I was somewhere else. But now with this, you can't do that, and you actually have to close out of your game before being able to turn down the screen brightness, which kind of bugs me. Also, it's easy to bump the slider. And the 3D effect, it just would feel better if there were arrows because it's got a bit of a lag. So when you turn it all the way from off to the top, it takes about a second and a half for it to realize you've moved it. And it's kind of annoying. It's a little bit the same for the volume. So I'll actually bump it, and then a second later, it'll all of a sudden get really loud. The arrow keys have a little bit of lag too when you're in like the sound setting, the sound thing, like they have like a music area, and I actually use this a bunch because I don't have an iPod and my MP3 player is kind of lame, so I've actually used this for some of my music, and it kind of bugs me because I'll pause it, and then it'll take about a second and a half for it to actually pause. So it doesn't bug me a whole lot, but it feels like a little bit of a letdown. One thing that I've actually heard a lot of people don't like, and I've noticed this too, the bottom screen is a little bit smaller, and this actually has affected some of the graphics for my games. Like
It does.
For some reason, because it gets smaller, the screen resolution doesn't quite work, and it'll actually make it some of the games I play a little bit more pixelated. Even though it's smaller, in theory it should get clearer, but for some reason it doesn't. It actually makes it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And that bugs me a little bit. Another thing is also, it seems raised. The bottom screen is raised from the rest of it. It's like maybe an eighth of an inch higher than the buttons. And this doesn't bug me a whole lot, but I could imagine they could have had it be lowered and actually make it more compact. But it's already more compact than the DSi, so it's not bugging me a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, when comparing it to my DSi's battery life, I was kind of annoyed because it's only lasts 2.5 hours. Although I haven't used the 3D a whole lot, it lasts 2.5 with the 3D turned all the way on, and then about 4.5 with the 3D turned off.
Battery life is terrible.
So I actually bought a DreamGear power case, and I'm very impressed by this. It's basically armor for it, and it is actually smaller than my Nerf armor, which is quite impressive. And it's smaller, and it has a battery, so it's not like it's you're trading compactness for the extra battery life. It actually still fits in my pocket, and it's
that impresses me greatly because my 3DS came with Nerf armor, and I don't know, if I could get the battery pack. I didn't realize that had armor of its own.
It's only $15 too, which is
That's
really
insane. That's excellent. Well, thank you for informing me of that.
Want me to get you a link?
Not right now. I could probably do it later, but yeah.
I will post a link for the people listening because they might also have an interest in it. Basically, what it is, it's a battery pack that sticks on the back, and then it has the prongs. They actually use this very effectively. You know how they have a charging dock?
Yes.
That you can buy for the 3DS, and it actually has the prongs in a different place. It's got like these two copper-colored areas next to the charging slot on the back.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
It actually uses those for the power case, so it makes it it sticks it in there, so it's more compact than if it was in the actual slot. And it has a button on the back right behind where you put your DS game, and you flip a switch, and it basically acts as a mobile charger. And the charging light comes on and everything, and it charges in about an hour and a half, and it lasts for about 3.5 hours. So it makes it about the equivalent of my DSi, and I like that.
That sounds fantastic.
I've found that it's not a complete upgrade. The 3DS isn't a total upgrade. I actually find myself still using my DSi. As soon as I got my DSi, I barely ever touched my DS Lite again because it was better in every single way. But it feels a little bit like I'm still switching back and forth between my DSi and my 3DS, and I use both.
Why on earth would you switch between the 3DS and the DSi?
Because the DSi is a little bit more comfortable in my hands with the Nerf armor, and then it's superior sound-wise in every single way.
Well,
the 3DS is downgraded in terms of sound and with the way the hardware is set up.
Okay.
The only thing I feel has been upgraded is it's slightly more compact, and then the software is obviously better.
And of course, graphics and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
So that's a little bit disappointing, although it's a 3DS, and I got it for $103, so I can't really complain a whole lot. And I don't mind switching between the two. I mean, I put one in each pocket, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
And it essentially doubles the battery life. When one's dying, I can just pull out the other one.
That is very true.
Although that hasn't been too much of a problem because of the battery pack, but yeah. Another thing that's slightly the only thing that's a negative effect for the battery pack is the fact that it gets a little bit hot in the back when you are charging between the two of them, so it gets a little bit uncomfortable because it's hot in the back, and I'm also worried. I'm sure they planned for this. This wouldn't actually happen, but I feel like it might melt a little bit of the back of my 3DS. Although it's made by DreamGear, and they're a pretty well-known company, and they've got very good reviews on almost everything they've done, so I have a feeling they planned for this, but it still worries me a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess J.O.'s never gonna show up, or what?
I don't know what. He's not on. It's not that big of a deal. So other games I got Mario Kart for $12. I remember when this was super popular, and my youngest brother actually got this, and he lost it. Unfortunately, he spent I think $35 when it first came out, and now the fact that you can get it for 12, I was like, heck, this was a good game. We had some fun playing multiplayer, mainly because you only need one game card. You can just do DS download play, and everyone can play. And I happen to have 4 DSs, so there's not really a lack of DSs in the household, so I can basically just say hey to some of my friends and see if they want to play on it. It's fun.
Well, excellent.
And it only cost me $12, so I can't really complain there. Another game I got was called Hotel Dusk. This was a not very well-known game, although I feel like it's probably on par with Professor Layton and Ace Attorney in terms of puzzle-solving game. Unfortunately, the company that made it went bankrupt.
Oh no.
They made a sequel, and they managed with the last amount of their money to release it in Japan. Unfortunately, they weren't able to release an English version, and I heard the sequel got way better reviews than the first one, and it was fantastic, but of course it was only released in Japan, and the company went bankrupt, so they were unable to release it, which bums me out. But I'm impressed so far with the beginning of the game. I've been kind of playing Ace Attorney and Professor Layton a bunch, so I haven't had a ton of time to play through it, but I finished Ace Attorney like yesterday, and I got around to playing a little bit of this game, and it's impressed me a bunch. It's a little bit more RPG and than maybe not more. I don't know. The way they set it up is it's kind of interesting. You actually turn the DS sideways, and it's like a novel, like a book, and it actually feels more like you're reading a book than playing a game. Although you make a ton of decisions, and it affects the game and stuff.
Yeah.
You should look it up. It's a good game,
and
it's also very inexpensive. I got mine for $9, I think, and it's just as good as Ace Attorney. Although there are a few things about it that I don't like a whole lot. One thing that bugs me is as the main character, the main character is a little bit of a jerk, and you don't have the ability to change that. And some of the lines that you say, you don't really affect. You can't really be a nice character. You're kind of a jerk, and you can't really change that while you're playing.
Darn.
And it that bugs me a little bit, but not a whole lot. But yeah, it's the main character. I cannot remember his name because I didn't play a whole lot, but he's an ex-police investigator, and he goes to this hotel and actually finds out that one of these rooms in the hotel can grant wishes or something, and then at some point in the game, randomly a murder occurs, and you have to somehow there's a connection between the two, and you have to solve the mystery of the room and the person being killed, and somehow they're connected. I haven't played through the whole thing, but it's interesting.
Sounds
you
cool.
You should definitely look into it once you finish up Professor Layton. If you ever get around to that.
There's a lot of games that I need to play. I mean a lot.
One other game I got Super Paper Mario for the Wii.
Oh really? That game's fantastic. I had that a couple of years ago.
I heard a lot of people give more on the negative side reviews, but I remember hearing an episode of TTV saying you mentioned it was a good game, and I was like, heck, it's like $15. That's pretty darn good for a Wii game. Usually they're in the $40 or $50 range.
Yeah.
So I decided to get it, and I got it in the mail this morning, and I played through it, and I couldn't stop playing.
Did you beat
It's
it
actually
already
a
or
lot
what?
of fun. Hmm?
Did you beat it already or what?
No, I'm through.
Okay.
I think I'm on like the beginning of World 3, and I'm actually quite impressed. It doesn't quite feel like a Mario game.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't. It's not along the same lines. It's a little bit more. I think it's more meant for some people that are a little bit on the older side. It's not. It
Yeah.
doesn't have the same innocent feel as Mario, and it has. It's more in-depth storyline. Although at the beginning that was kind of bugging me because it was just an endless line of text, people talking on and on and on and on. It's like I kind of want to start playing.
Yeah. The Mario RPGs have an issue with that.
Aside from that, I'm impressed by it, and I love the way the geometry and the physics work. I've always been a fan of games like that, especially because I'm a former uh, architect in the making, and I kind of lost interest a little bit in it, but I still love geometry and stuff, and I totally love how it works out, how you can switch from 3D to 2D.
Yeah.
It's just cool how they set that up. It's very clever how they do some stuff, whereas some stuff's hidden because of the 3D effect. It's kind of interesting.
Definitely.
What are your thoughts on that?
I played the game a couple of years ago, so I don't remember everything about it, but it was one of my favorite games for the Wii back when I owned one. And ironically enough, I've never actually played the rest of the series. The Paper Mario series actually existed long before that game,
I heard
and
about that.
the Super Paper Mario game is one of the it's not as positively received as those games. So I have to wonder if I liked that one, then those ones must be like, wow, masterpieces.
Hmm.
But I will likely not get around to playing them for a long time because, well, yeah, I don't have any consoles, no Nintendo consoles except for 3DS.
So yeah, I also got Mario Galaxy, which is so far I've heard a lot about this. Aside from New Super Mario Bros., I've heard it's the most popular um, Mario Wii game.
It is. It
So
is
I
the
figured that.
iconic
Did
Wii
you own it?
Mario game. I owned it, yes. It was
Did you own
fantastic.
the first one?
Yeah, the first one. I've heard the
I,
second one is far better, but I never got it. That was after I no longer had my Wii.
I bought it, and it should have been here today. Actually, I was hoping to play it along with New or Super Paper Mario, but unfortunately, it did not come. So it'll probably be here in the next couple days. Oh well. I guess I'll do it in the next Facecast episode. But
You have
yeah.
stuff to play.
Mm-hmm. So after we've been talking for 40 minutes about video games, let's switch topics to our second segment. Some interesting things happened over the week. We got the release of the Zombiestrike Hammershot, which we already heard about, and then another out of the blue, literally it's blue, Nerf Zombiestrike Sledgefire.
Wait, whoa. Sled fire?
Sledge, like
Oh,
sludge, except for
okay.
with edge.
Good.
I am I hate the colors. It looks so incredibly ugly in terms of coloring. Light blue and orange just do not go well together at all.
Wow, that's awful. That's terrible looking.
But the concept that it has is kind of cool. It's a shotgun. You put in a chamber with or a round with 3 darts, and it fires in a shotgun effect. And it's actually this is actually out, and I've heard some people. I think it's in um, Norway, maybe. I don't know, Netherlands or something like that. They got a few of these, and I've heard it's for spray fire. If you're aiming at someone and you're far away or they're moving fast, it's actually very good for hitting them because it's got a very wide spread. However, you're out of ammo with 4 shots essentially if you have 1 chambered and 3 in the back, um, which is not the greatest because that's just like terrible. Four shots, and the size of the gun is very large, and I feel like they should have more. Also, they're kind of awkward to carry, and they have that weird thing at the back. I don't like the way they have that stock setup with the thing in the back. It makes the gun humongous. They could have done that so much better. They could have had it kind of fold underneath. but with it coming off the back, I just don't like that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, the Sledgefire. I have so many bad things to say about that. This is like a mini tangent of mine, but when I think Zombiestrike, maybe it's just me, but that doesn't exactly scream blue and orange, or either one of those colors individually. I think gritty, black and gray and steel metallic with some red, maybe, or I don't know.
I
Not
can see the orange and
possibly the orange, yeah.
the Hammershots, the one that's orange with some red around the handle. That feels more like it.
Yes.
But this, it's worse than the yellow. Okay, because
Oh yeah, definitely.
the yellow was at least it was iconic. But this blue, it's never been seen before. It stands out and it's just ugly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Not good at all.
That might actually be a deal breaker for buying it unless I can paint.
You're gonna. I wouldn't buy that.
I'm interested in seeing the price for it because if it's $20, maybe $25, I might get it. But I just have a bad feeling this is gonna be like $30, and it's not. It has an amazing spread for the fire. It doesn't have a whole lot of shots, and I'd imagine even if they have the ammo come in extra packs, that's gonna be more money that you're spending on this.
Yeah.
Also, well, the shells are kind of cool for like it makes it more fun to play around with. It's not going to be fun when you're actually doing a Nerf war because you're going to have to pick up the shells after firing that, and not being able to fire even if you have the darts and no shell, that's going to be a pain.
Yeah.
Requiring more things to pick up when already picking up darts is kind of hard, and you have to pick up 1 for 3 shots. I just don't like that idea.
It is pretty bad. Not gonna lie.
I think I'm gonna have to see before I completely say it's terrible. With 2 guns being released, I imagine this will not be the end. I have a feeling they're gonna at least release 1 more because Nerf has a way of releasing at least 3 guns for every theme, like offshoot theme that they've done, or what's it called? Spin-off themes. But aside from the Lighted Up series, which was actually my favorite spin-off series, they've done at least 3 for everyone. The second one, or technically the third one that we got, was the Sonic Ice Elite series, Rampage. That's quite the mouthful. It's basically the clear version of the Elite series, and I have to say I'm not too impressed by this because if they had done a completely new color, that'd be cool, but it's blue like the Elite series, except for now it's clear. So it's not a huge difference, and it's still the same price, and the darts are the same too, so it's just not doing it for me, I don't think.
Yeah, I hear you.
Some people who see it might think it's kind of interesting.
Probably has its appeal.
Another interesting, I'm not sure why they have a stock for it. Because the original gun didn't come with one. That's the Retaliator stock. I'm wondering if this actually comes with the stock or if they just stole that from another Clear Ice or Sonic. Jeez, this name is gonna be Sonic. No, I got it wrong again. Sonic Ice Elite series.
There you go.
I'm just gonna call it Clear Elite because
Clear Elite.
What Sonic?
What a cop out! Sonic Ice.
Sonic is supposed to be green, and how is this ice? It's dark, transparent blue. I don't see anything pertaining to ice.
Man.
It's not light blue. It's not white. It's just no.
You know, you're right. That doesn't even remind me of ice. That color blue. What in the world?
Apparently, it's a Toys R Us exclusive as well.
Is
so
it
it's gonna
that
be super
fantastic?
expensive.
Yeah. One more layer of terrible news.
Last of all, they released another. They've done. They've only done 1 repaint so far. They did a this interesting repaint of the Vortex series. The original color was green, so I love green, so I'm not too disappointed about that, and I'm not sure I'll get the new ones, but they're apparently white with blue, and I like the color, but I liked the green better, because green's just my favorite color, and I just...
Yeah.
But the white is still... If they didn't come out in green the first time, might have an interest in this, because the white and blue has always been a cool combination.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is this kind of almost the same colors as the Sledgefire, but somehow this is actually pulling it off, and it looks it looks good. But
a little, yeah.
The Sledgefire just looks ugly, and
it's the shade of blue.
Colors. Maybe it's because the blue and the white are reversed on the Sledgefire.
Yeah. Color layering and placement have a lot to do with it, in my opinion.
Another thing, this is more decal looking. They've got the interesting designs on the side. The Diatron, they don't have pictures here, but they actually came out a while ago at the Toy Fair. This is pictures of it actually being out in the store. But when they posted pictures, the Diatron impressed me a ton because it has the black decals, and it looks pretty cool. It's the white, black, and orange, and it actually looks pretty cool. And then also, there have been a few sightings of the Revonix, which is the newest Vortex gun. And it looks pretty epic. An interesting thing that it does is it flips the discs sideways. So you load them in vertically, and then somehow the mechanism flips them horizontally to fire out. Horizontally, like a saucer. But somehow it flips them. I still don't understand the mechanism for that. Also, I'm not sure the point of it, because it doesn't make it a whole lot more compact, because the drum is already integrated. So if they flip it outside, it's almost the same horizontally as it is vertically in terms of size. So I don't know why they flipped it. I mean, it's cool, but it seems pointless, kind of along the lines of, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
All
right, well,
one last thing. You made me forget. I have a feeling it's going to bug modders a ton, because it'll make it hard to modify it, having to work around the internals, because if there are internals that require the stuff to flip, the internals that actually are used in the process of flipping the disc sideways, they aren't going to be able to cut that out or easily modify it, so I imagine that's going to be bugging people. But aside from that, I think it looks pretty impressive, and I think I'll be getting it as opposed to the Pyragon. I wanted to get the Pyragon because of the 40-disc drum, which is impressive compared to the 10-disc clips that I have, and I'm kind of looking for an upgrade. Although the Pyragon was 50, so I wasn't too keen on getting it right away. But the Revonix is 40, and I have a feeling when it comes out, I'll probably grab it on Black Friday when it's $20, $25 range. That's a little bit more reasonable, and it's almost the same amount as the Pyragon. It's only 10 less, and it's got the integrated drum, and I've heard it's easy to load because it's got the hole in the side, so all you have to do is slap it in there instead of having to pull out the drum on the Pyragon and load the discs in. You can just slap it on the side.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, Jo was not here, so he didn't get to discuss much of it. Watch him show up like 2 minutes after we end.
Well, I was about to say that'd be great, but it would not be great. But it would be humorous. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been fun. Yes.
All right. Well, this has been fun. I am Joe14, and this is our 14th episode of Infinite Inspiration Incorporated Facecast, and I was here with
Mesonak from the TTV podcast. Yeah.
This is our first episode that we've only had 2 people, and actually didn't go so bad.
Yeah, we can deal. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.